This is Brenna Quigley, your personal geologist and terroir guide. Join me on a road trip through the geologic history of your favorite wine regions around the world. This is Roadside Terroir. Season 2, Burgundy's Côte d'Or, is made possible by our Season 2 partners, Becky Wasserman and Company, La Palais, and Acker Wines. Established in 1820, Acker is the oldest wine shop in America and has a passion for wine and the people who love wine. They're committed to bringing the great wines of Burgundy and beyond directly to you, offering opportunities in auctions, events, travel, retail offers, and more. They've even made it easy to find the elusive producers and vineyards we feature on this show. Check out ackerwines.com/roadside-terroir to explore. Looking for more hands-on opportunities to get yourself in front of some great Burgundy? Join Acker for their spring season of unforgettable wine workshop events, including a Ravenot Chablis Grand Cru Lachaux vertical, a Clos de la Roche dinner, Savigny-le-Bon tasting, and more. More info at ackerwines.com/wine-workshop. To celebrate our listeners, Acker is offering a discount code for your first purchase. Just use the code ROADSIDE to get 15% off orders of $350 or more. We're determined to keep this content free and accessible for everyone. If you'd like to support our show, please consider becoming an insider. Insiders have access to lots of cool stuff, including extra photos, travel guides, and extended interviews with our guests. To learn more, visit our website, roadsideterroir.com. Please don't drink and drive, and remember to keep your eyes on the road. This episode contains explicit language.
So we go straight?
Yes, straight. We go to see two different plots.
In this episode, we're setting out to explore the village of Vosne-Romanée, the single most mythical, most famous, most revered village in the Côte d'Or, in Burgundy, in France, and perhaps the world. Today, we'll trace the pilgrimage of countless others who travel to Burgundy to overlook this perfect part of the slope. We'll follow the reputation of Vosne-Romanée from Roman times through today, and hear from some of the most legendary voices in the world of wine. In order to tap into this place, we first want to understand where it begins, technically, physically, geologically, and historically. So we're going to pick up right where we left off in our last episode, in the northern half of the village of Nuits-Saint-Georges.
It's a large appellation, so there are so many different wines, different styles, and you're going to have a lot of nuance.
Here's Daniel Jonas.
So when you get into the north side of Nuits-Saint-Georges itself, starting with Haute-Tourret, you find this wonderful aromatics and texture that have shocked me that Tourret is not better known.
Though today, the northern half of Nuits-Saint-Georges is significantly less famous than the vines just a few meters away in Vosne-Romanée, the two areas can be shockingly difficult to distinguish by taste alone. Here's Paul Wasserman.
It was only recently that Les Tourets popped out to me at Cassiar as one of the best wines in the cellar. There's an elegance. I'd be damned if you didn't put it in Vosne-Romanée served blind.
But for some reason, it's not well known. It's not as well known as, say, Les Chéniaux, which is right next door. And perhaps it has to do with the notoriety of the Mugneret sisters in Vosne-Romanée, who have this parcel of Chéniaux. Really, really an extraordinary value and extraordinary wine.
So here we are in Nuits-Saint-Georges.
In order to discover where these similarities might come from, we arrive in the vineyards themselves, guided by Marie-Andrée Mugneret of Domaine Georges Mugneret-Gibourg, one of the most prized domains in Vosne-Romanée. Marie-Andrée runs the domain with her sister, Marie-Christine. We're here to explore two very distinct neighboring vineyards, Nuits-Saint-Georges Premier Crus, Aux Vignerondes, and just above it, Aux Chéniaux.
And we are approximately at 250 meters of altitude. And our parcel of Chéniaux is just, you see the piece of a little white wall, you see, and our cheniaux are just here. So we have the valley of the Mezin here, which separates the north and the south of Nuits Saint-Georges. And we have to imagine that the soil is different from the parcel of the cheniaux, which the cheniaux are on the slope. When you go down on the slope, you have more clay here than there, of course. And Friday, I make some earth sample with the, I don't know the term of the machine to take the carrots. Of course, when you arrive at 30 centimeters, of course you have the rock. I think the bedrock. And of course, when you come here, you have more clay. I think that the difference in the wine is generally the Nuits Saint-Georges are very soft in this place, but we have beautiful tannins, very generous wines, and the Cheniaux with more limestone. We have maybe more precision. What can I say about Cheniaux? Something very important to know. The draining, of course, it's better on the slope.
Okay. So yeah, you said only 30 centimeters probably until it's
there.
rocky. Oh, there.
In the Cheniaux, not here.
How deep is it here?
Oh, close to 91 meters.
Okay.
Yes. I think that I have...
Yes, you heard her correctly. Marie-Andrée said that the soils in Vigneronde are about 300 times deeper than in Chagnon. What she's referring to here is not really the topsoil, as we might imagine it, but the depth of unconsolidated alluvium before hitting solid limestone bedrock. At this point on the slope, it's believed that we're standing right along the boundary of the Saône Rift. And as we've learned from Françoise Vannier, this boundary is likely a bit more gradual than this description, but the sudden presence of deep alluvial material still has a very real effect on the vines. As we continue to inch closer to the border of Vosne-Romanée, we think about the invisible line that separates these two villages.
Attends, Only! Viens là! Allez, viens, gros! Viens.
In just a few hundred meters, we come to the last, northernmost vineyards of Nuits Saint-Georges, and are now joined by Pascal Mugneret of Domaine Gérard Mugneret of Vosne-Romanée, and his Australian shepherd pup, Only.
Photo. Il aime le monde, hein? He loves people.
And we love him.
He loves two things in his life: eating and driving.
The Mugneret name here is no coincidence. Pascal is the cousin of the Mugneret sisters, who we will see again in just a few minutes.
We work with Pascal Mugneret from Domaine Gérard Mugneret. And there are two domains we work with where we're at the third generation, and the Mugnerets are one of them. Our cellar was full of the grandfather's wines when I was growing up, and they were incredible wines. Pascal farms biodynamically. The farming is exceptional. The general health of Pascal's vines, the poise they have, is something that's almost too subtle to understand if you're not a vigneron. But another interesting thing is that he probably has the lowest total sulfurs of a classic domain in the Côte de Nuit. 25 total, which is nothing for red wine.
We begin in a little cluster of Premier Cru vineyards: Au Boudot, Au Cras, and La Richemont.
And then you get into Cras, which Cras by definition, the name is cray, chalk. So it's a very chalky, limestoney, minerally driven soil. And then Boudot. So Nuits Saint-Georges et Boudot is by many considered one of the great Premier Cru of Nuits Saint-Georges. And it's neighboring Vosne-Romanée. So it borrows some of its notoriety from the appellation Vosne-Romanée. But Boudot certainly merits attention.
Legally, all three of these vineyards are allowed to be blended together to be called Au Boudot. And up until 2017, Pascal and his father before him had blended together their parcels of Au Cras and La Richemont, but called it Au Boudot.
Allez, Only. Viens. Allez, viens, gros. So here are the Cras. My grandparents and my grand-grandfather had two parcels on Nuits Saint-Georges Premier Cru. Au Cras, the parcel where we are, and La Richemont. So because these parcels were neighbors, and because La Richemont was so small, they decided to blend them and to call all the cuvées au boudot.
Okay.
So when people ask us to show them where were our Boudot's parcel, when I show Okra and Lachaux, say, okay, so you've got some Okra and Lachaux, but where are the Boudot? So I said, no, it is. So it was difficult, to explain. But in 17, I decided to separate them because it was not on my idea to continue to keep them together.
And La Richemont may very well be the greatest wine in your cellar, you think?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Nuit Saint-Georges, another one.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting questions about terroir in Burgundy relates to these village boundaries. Were they drawn blindly, following only the principles of the taste of the wines? Or were there other motives, perhaps practical or political?
Yeah, but if you look at the map, look. No. Look the map and look, we have a great view here. We're much closer from Vosne-Romanée than from Nuit Saint-Georges. And if you look the map, you will see the edge is quite exactly in the middle of the distance between Vosne-Romanée and Nuit Saint-Georges. But if you look at the Premier Cru, the edge is coming just after the Malconsort.
Yeah.
So
much closer.
you won't remove from my mind that I have a deep respect for terroir, and it doesn't change anything about terroir, but for sure it could have been called Vosne-Romanée La Richemont, or Vosne-Romanée au Boudot, or Vosne-Romanée au Cras, without any problems. So why it is Nuit Saint-Georges? I think it's only because people from Nuit Saint-Georges were stronger than people from Vosne-Romanée. It is politics.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's politics. Here you can see Vosne-Romanée vines. You see it? It's crazy. So no problem with the terroir, but with the appellation Nuit Saint-Georges Vosne-Romanée, I think we can talk about this a long time.
Yeah. Is the problem that these vineyards are better than other Nuit Saint-Georges vineyards, or it's that they're more typical of
Yeah, I think they're more typical from Vosne-Romanée. The comparison is not so silly,
The issue is that people don't regard it as great as, but they should, because objectively, certainly La Richemont is, it's crazy wine. Yep.
It's crazy.
From this vantage point, we look south, back towards the village of Nuit Saint-Georges and across the Combe de Maison, the large valley that contains the village. We've pointed out these combes many times and have often noted their physical and climatic significance. And yet, in her detailed work, Françoise Vannier has made an incredible discovery about the geologic significance of these combes, which may make them even more important than anyone had previously realized.
And it's still due to human being imprint on the territory. Most of the times, the villages have been built at the outlet of the valleys. And most of the time, you've got a valley where either you've got a river flowing, either you've got some spring, but the villages have been built because there was some water, and they used it to live. When the communes have been defined, they took the villages and they cut the territory around the communes. And that's why most of the time you've got a valley, a village, and the appellation, the vineyard, extending both north and south of the village. And very often you hear about the wines of Chambol, the wines of Volnay, the wines, etc., and so on and so on. Geologically speaking, you've got a valley, and you've got some faults, so subsoil distributions is not the same. And
here in the Côte d'Or, we usually picture the main fault traces running parallel to the orientation of the slope, or north-south. These faults have down-dropped blocks of hard Jurassic limestone, like stair steps along the côte. But that's only half of the story. Françoise describes another set of nearly perpendicular faults that cut through these stair steps. These transverse faults have relative movement more like back and forth. or east-west, and, as you may have already guessed, have left behind some clear evidence of their existence: the combs that cut through the Côte. When you look a little more closely at the seemingly continuous slope of the Côte d'Or, you can actually see that between villages, the slopes might be offset from one another. As we look out onto the slope here, between Nuits-Saint-Georges and Vosne-Romanée, it suddenly becomes clear that the slope we're standing on, the Vosne-Romanée side, is actually over 450 meters, or over a quarter of a mile, further west than the slope on the opposite side of Nuits-Saint-Georges. This means that there is significantly more area for village vineyards in between the base of the slope and the main road than in the southern half of Nuits-Saint-Georges. Françoise has not yet made detailed maps of Nuits-Saint-Georges or Vosne-Romanée, but she did confirm that there's a big fault that separates the northern and southern halves of Nuits-Saint-Georges, and that the northern half of Nuits-Saint-Georges is, in fact, geologically much more similar to the southern half of Vosne than it is to the southern half of Nuits-Saint-Georges.
There is a big fault in between,
Oh, yeah?
just in the middle. The northern side of Nuits-Saint-Georges is very similar to the southern part of Beaune, with
And even more shockingly, this relationship is likely true for every major combe in the Côte d'Or.
The great mystery is that, well, certainly the northern bit of Nuits resembles Vosne, or Vosne south resembles the northern bit of Nuits, but as you go south towards Nuits, there's still a bit of that stern structure nowhere near as the center of the village. So it's the amazing enigma is why there's this umbrella of this family to most villages, even if, the borders are not drawn in ballpoint pen, they're drawn in watercolors. They start to bleed into each other.
And you can see here, you can keep your shoes not dry, but
Yeah.
so it's La Richemont, and just behind the small wall here, it's Ocra. Ça, c'est des cras à Christophe Perroni. You want to go? You go? Yeah, you can go.
With this in mind, we hop over to Vosne-Romanée.
I always get the question of, what is your favorite Burgundy? And, it's always changing. And that's because I think there's so much magic in Burgundy. And so certainly Vosne-Romanée is one of my favorite villages. And the wines out of Vosne-Romanée can knock you back on your heels and give you some of the most memorable tasting experiences of a lifetime.
Vosne-Romanée is a village made up of distinct characters. Not the winemakers or people, but the vineyards themselves. It's a relatively small village, only about 230 hectares in total, and 73 of those hectares, or over 30%, are Grand Cru. Considering Grand Cru vineyards only make up a tiny fraction of the vines in all of Burgundy, something like 2%, depending on how you like to do your math. This is clearly a significant place for these otherworldly wines. Within Vosne-Romanée, another 25% of the vines are designated as Premier Cru, and these Premier Crus are known for being nearly as individualistic as the Grand Crus. Within a village of individuals, is there really a singular character shared by them all?
Wines that have weight, wines that have texture, and wines that could be very sturdy, could have a lot of muscle, could have a lot of extract, just depending on where it is and how, who makes it. So you could make a wine that's very light and ethereal.
Because of the price and rarity of the wines of Vosne-Romanée, we requested some help from one of the greatest minds and souls in the world of Burgundy. Grand Cru expert, world-renowned sommelier turned Californian farmer and winemaker, Rajat Parr.
And the main reason for that is the clay, because there is a lot of clay, as you know, and there's a lot of limestone. So it just depends where you are. And it's also a place where whole cluster plays a big part. So you have many producers who are using a lot of whole clusters, some completely destemmed. So you see a stylistic difference there. I don't think there's any other commune that kind of sees that difference. There are very famous producers who destem and who have whole cluster, and they make very different wines.
Without Françoise's maps, we don't have a ton of specifics on the geology here. But what we know about the big picture gives us our first glance at the classic stratigraphy of the Côte de Nuits. From top to bottom, there's the Comblanchian limestone somewhere at the very crest of the slope, white oolite, and then the Premo limestone, all of which we saw in Nuit St. George. And then, just below and a bit older, the Ostrea acuminata marl, a crumbly marl jam-packed with adorable little oyster fossils, and the harder but also very fossiliferous Calcaire à Entroc, or crinoidal limestone. Crinoids are ancient sea lilies, or marine animals whose fossils often look like little discs or stars. This is the generalized stratigraphy, but the detail of how these rocks have been fractured and rearranged along the slope is another layer of detail not yet discovered.
And in Vosne, it's one of the places where the Comblanchien is cultivated upslope. It's not so common along the Côte de Nuit. Very often you've got the vineyard, the forest, and the forest is lying onto the Comblanchien. Here it's not the case. And in Vosne you've got a specificity also. You won't have a lot of woods at the top of the hill because during the 19th century they brought the earth to put it into the vineyard. And in the Archives de Côte d'Or, in the library in Dijon, you can find a manuscript written in just before the French Revolution explaining that a lot of how to translate it. The natural terroir is not so natural, and here
I'm not trying to get myself or anyone else in trouble here. So in order to preserve some mystery, let's just say that the slopes of Vosne-Romanée were quarried in several places and have often been backfilled later on to allow for cultivation. Now that you know how much of the slope is planted to Grand Cru, I'll let you jump to your own conclusions. We head into the vineyards to explore some Premier Crus with Pascal, taking note of just how bumpy and rugged the road becomes on our way.
You guys can afford a better road.
No.
I know.
Seats are good.
We begin in Vosne Premier Cru, Les Suchots, the odd Premier Cru sandwiched between some major Grand Crus.
So we are arriving. Suchot here is Le Roi's Beaumont. Here it's Brûlé from Michel Gros. Ouais, je suis vraiment pas bon. Here Suchot from Domaine de l'Arlot. Just next to Suchot from Michel Noëlla. Mm-hmm. And after it's ours.
So Suchot is kind of almost surrounded by Grand Crus, right? And so the reason it's not a Grand Cru, I guess, is because it definitely falls down. It's slightly lower elevation, and there's, I won't say it's a ditch, but there's definitely like, you feel that you're coming down in elevation, and it almost seems like a little concave situation happening there. And that's why the wines don't have the same regal. They're very good wines, but they just don't have that same depth and density.
We walk into the vineyard where Pascal describes the relationship between distinct terroirs, vine age, and wine character.
I would say there are three areas in this parcel. This first zone here, it drain.
Very well draining.
It's well draining due to stone coming from the top. And after you've got another zone, much more clay. And my grandfather used to say that at this place below, you've got a river.
Okay.
And it's very funny because in summer, when the soil is plowed, you have no grass on the first part, and you can see some grass 60, 70 meters further. And after, I would say, another 60 or 70 meters further, it stopped. But what is very surprising, it's much more clay, but it's not very thick.
Yeah.
What is sure, after this turn, the behavior of the vines is completely different. What I know, Suchot is the biggest in surface on Vosne. It comes from the cemetery over there.
Can we walk down?
Yeah, we can go.
the curve?
Yeah, we can go.
Oh yes, we'll be in the sun too.
Yeah.
You've got the cemetery, so
big
it starts
difference.
with the cemetery. And Paul knows this very well. When we used to say from someone that he was going to the Suchot, and people said, just tell me where in the Suchot. In fact, that was meaning that he was dead. Because the cemetery is on the Lachaux place. I have a girl who is here for 1 year. She's here in order to learn about vines. For the moment, I propose her to sample each parcel in order to estimate two things: the age of the vines and the vigor of the vines.
Pascal explains that instead of ripping out entire sections of the vineyard, he prefers to replace the underperforming old vines one by one. But that means it's difficult to understand the actual age of the vineyard as a whole and how the different generations of vines are performing.
For example, here, it's approximately 10 years old.
Okay.
Okay? So we have, and this one is probably 5 years old.
And that one?
And that's one more than 50 or 60 years old.
Okay.
So the idea is to estimate the age. We have 4 categories: very young, adult, old.
Okay.
And after we have 4 levels of vigor: weak, more or less weak, more or less strong. When you plant a new one like this with all around old vines, it takes approximately 7 years before it produces normally.
Wow.
Because if it dies very young, that means that the new generation will never be an adult.
Right.
And in that case,
It's a waste.
you have to probably to say we have to remove everything.
Right.
But you will never have the same diversity. And I think the idea is to have some diversity.
The way Pascal describes this relationship shows just how much depth there can be to a topic that's often simply rattled off on a checklist.
It's nice when you change. So the question is this yield compatible with the wine style you want to produce? And is it economically interesting with the strategy of the domain, in fact? And if it is, I think it's really interesting because you can keep the experience of old vines and the energy of young vines. You can compare with PSG, you know, the football team, Paris team.
Yeah.
We have the best team in the world, but not for the result. But on the paper,
Right. They have to
many
work
stars.
together.
Yeah. The whole team is most important than individuals. And I think for the vines, it's my philosophy, the same.
Are we in the more clay area now?
Yeah.
Or?
A bit, yes, now you have got more clay. You can feel it, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see it even.
Over there, the first part, we've got the proportion of the adult is more important than here. Here you've got more old or very old vines. If you look, it's more easy to find very old vines. And they are very resistant. And if you look at the vigor, they are old and vigorous. It's quite vigorous.
Yeah. Oh.
Beginning of summer, we will count the flowering.
Okay.
And after we will count the grapes. And the idea is because you can be vigorous, but with no grapes. So there's a link between vigor and fertility. No? Okay. And in fact, if it's too weak, it's not fertile. If it's too strong, it's not fertile. So we have to find the balance. Because when we talk about a yield, if you say our yield is 25 or 30 hectoliters per hectare, it's quite different if it's 30 hectoliters per hectare and all the vines are producing, or if you have 30 hectoliters per hectare, but only 70% are producing.
Yeah.
You know, so when people talk about yields, you can say, okay, I've heard. But if you have a look on the parcel, it's much more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Pascal, were you an engineer before you did wine?
In a previous life.
You don't hear it when he talks?
Ah, ça s'entend? You can hear it, sorry.
No, it's just the thought process.
It is,
We're not laughing at you because Brenda's also a scientist.
Yeah?
You know?
Yeah, it's the systematic way of filtering the data.
So you like this one?
Yeah. Allez gros, allez, non, on va pas y passer après-midi là. Allez, dépêche-toi, allez. Oui.
We whistle for Only, hop back in the car, and drive along the Combe Brûlée before heading up the slope overlooking the Grand Cruise.
Oh, the dog is in there.
He's not happy, but he's here.
I'm respectful for the cows.
And then you have the Premier Cru Brûlée, which is, as the word says, brûlé, burnt. I mean, Brûlée and Beaumont, that's a combe there. So if there was no combe there, all the Premier Crus would be Grand Cru.
The Combe Brûlée is a small one, probably with very minimal geologic offset, if any. The road itself cuts through the vineyard Au Brûlée, splitting it into two parts, one north-facing, one south-facing.
Here we've got our Brûlée parcel. We have two parcels. One is here. We're not getting stuck here. Okay. The other one, this one. Yeah. And the second one is here. We're gonna see it. It's one of my favorite places.
Okay. But isn't Brûlée on both sides?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
From Au Brûlée, we head to the top of the slope with Charles Lachaux of Domaine Arnoux Lachaux, who we introduced in our last episode.
The domain was founded in 1858.
This small cluster of Premier Crus is a rarity in the Côte d'Or. It's a bit more common for Premier Crus to sit below the Grand Crus in the Côte de Nuit, and higher elevation vineyards at the top of the slope tend to be designated as villages. But here, the Premier Crus have a stunning view of the most magical vineyards in the world.
What's very important is the Premier Crus on that little hillside. You have one of the most important Premier Crus up on the slope there. Above Richebourg is Croparantou, planted by the late Henri Jaillet, and now produced by Méo Camuzet and Emmanuel Rouget. And that is an extraordinary wine, has the kind of weight of Richebourg, but maybe more spicy and more red fruit, but again, with warmer vintages, you can get the kind of black fruit aroma. And then right above that is another very small Premier Cru, Pétimont. It's a very small Premier Cru, and you don't see many examples of it. It's a vineyard which is much more bony on the palate, but really nice aromas of red fruits, more red fruits in Pétimont. Aurignon, Premier Cru, also known for wines that are more tannic, firmer, slightly more coffee and chocolate notes.
I think a lot of people would put their favorite Premier Cru of Vosne amongst one of those three. Regnault, which is just above La Romanée. It's pretty steep. There's, first of all, what appears to be a fault between Regnault and La Romanée. There's a pretty serious drop between the two vineyards, and it's a different color soil, much lighter. And it is a very, very, very mineral wine. It is it going to be my favorite Premier Cru in Vosne? I think so.
Here, Charles is once again pushing limits and defying expectations. A section of his Regnault vineyard has been planted at high density, 17,000 vines per hectare, and en échalas, meaning each vine is trained to its own individual stake, rather than along wires in a row, as described by Jasper Morris.
So we'll go up to, in the middle of the slope, we are going to visit Vosne-Romanée Premier Cru au Regnault. You see the échalas on the middle, all the stakes? So this is where we're going.
And what is the other word that you're using for échalas?
Pesso. P-A-I-S-S-E-A-U.
E-A-U-X.
If there's several of them.
But you never plant only one.
I know.
But yeah.
What is the difference in when you would use the terms? It's the same thing, or
Between the Pesso and échalas?
Yeah, regional difference.
Yeah. That's why you don't hear much about the name Pesso. It's because there are not many in Burgundy. But it's what was used when there were a lot the pre-phylloxeric time.
so échalas.
So La Romanée on your right, and La Romanée of the top on your left. So the Regnault we're going to see starts here at the wall. So it's the Ligier-Belair plot. So it's like a triangle. You see there's a wall. So just above after it's Pétimont. It's not Regnault anymore. So Regnault is like a big triangle. We are two from the bottom of Regnault. It's Ligier-Belair and ourselves. And the other growers and owners are high on the slope. I will show you. And the end of the appellation is the path between Regnault and Richebourg. And it's where the Petit Mont starts as well. So here there is not any machine that goes into the rows, because as you see, the vineyard is a bit wide, but the rows are very short. So we don't make the space for a tractor to turn at the top or the bottom. So there is no soil work like the rest, but no blade, no grass pinching. The spraying are done with a back machine. I do it myself at the moment. A very simple approach. So you see, if you try to take grass out without the compactor, it comes out so easily. And you see how the grass, how you can pull it out easily, even the very small like this, as there's no compaction, only the human work. But just now I just took it out and you see all the, it's coming out so easily. There's no compaction, nothing. No, the lesser. See?
Do you think it is also a bit lighter texture?
Yes.
Soil
Yeah, but when you look at it.
Yeah.
And what is fascinating is how it's already naturally decompacted.
Yeah.
Because you don't have heavy tractors going in. And it smells good.
It smells so good.
Paul plucks a few second crop grapes off the vines and passes them around.
Here. That's the only Regnault we'll ever drink.
It's like...
It's no wonder Paul loves this wine and this vineyard. Françoise has reported that she believes there's a good amount of Grès-Lité at the top of the slope here. That highly calcareous cryoclastic gravel we've seen in a few places on our journey. Paul notoriously loves wines with exactly this kind of distinctive cut and intensity, and always gravitates towards Grès-Lité wines, even though I don't think he's actually aware of the Grès-Lité in this vineyard yet.
And after we have this small part in the plot, which is in high density. It was planted in 2015. And we'll see what it gives, because the funny part here is that for almost a century it was only grass. We even have fruit growing.
Ah, yeah.
Look. I love nature. The more we go up, the more we have rocks. But there you see, bigger gravels. And the soil here is not very dark. The spot here is tremendous. You're overlooking the Grand Crus of Vosne and larger. You can see the Clos Vougeot, a big part of the Musigny, and you already see Dijon, overlooking la Romanée Conti, and Saint-Vivant, Tache, Grande Rue, de Richebourg, Suchot, Échezeaux, Grand Échezeaux, Clos Vougeot. Above Clos Vougeot you can see the Musigny, and then it's the end of the world.
If there's ever a place where it would feel risky to push the limits of farming, it would be in the precious, precarious Premier Crus of Vosne-Romanée. It was difficult to decide how to approach the Grand Crus of Vosne-Romanée. These wines are so rare and so expensive they often seem like they don't belong to us mortals. How do we describe wines of such importance without first-hand experience? And how do we explain their purpose, knowing many of us may never even have the opportunity to taste them? I asked a few friends to help describe what a Grand Cru is and what it means in the world today.
A Grand Cru always speaks back to you, you know? It's like you taste it, and then you think about it, and it says something to you. And usually it's the little voice that comes back to you is like, this is where I am, you know? And no place more than Vosne-Romanée defines that. A Grand Cru always, you know, has that extra layer and has that extra dimension.
Here's Jasper Morris, author of Inside Burgundy.
You have your appellations, and then the Grand Crus are their own individual appellations. So if we go back just to the village level, we have a view roughly of what the characteristics are supposed to be in taste terms. So you get this idea of a flavour. The Premier Cru vineyards are those that express that flavour better, and you also get this feeling, the wine goes into your mouth and there it is, and then it sort of takes off. The aeroplane is left the ground and you get an extra lift and punch and just delivers more. The Grand Crus should have a strong enough personality of their own, which, though it may be linked to the appellation, it sort of transcends it. So that's my idea. A Grand Cru should have enough of its own personality that it self-defines.
Now they just stand as benchmarks, you know? I mean, the thing is that even back in the day, when you drank a Grand Cru, A village wine would just seem so kind of light and not as complex. And it's the same today. The Grand Cru is just like so profound, and it's like the person who wants to tell you a story, you know. A village wine will just say one word, a Premier Cru might give you a sentence, but the Grand Cru really talks back to you. And they are the benchmark. I mean, it defines each place. Yeah, too bad we can't taste them more often and discuss them, but yeah, it's there to tell you a story.
Rue Saint-Georges, Vosne-Romanée. It's the frontier.
Yeah, the road changes.
Yes. So Malconsort here.
In order to explore these distinct yet hard to reach wines, Marie-Andrée Mugneret has kindly agreed to give us a little driving tour, and Raj and Paul will help to illuminate the wines as we go.
Yes, the rainbow is always here.
We've been following it all morning.
We begin our tour where we started this morning, in the south, arriving in Vosne from Neuilly-Saint-Georges.
And of course, La Tâche.
Lachaux is on our left, marked by an ancient cross that sits upon the Astrea Acuminata marl, one of the key monopoles of Domaine de la Romanie Conti, yet the vineyard's boundaries and ownership were under flux until 1933. The 6-hectare vineyard has distinctly variable, yet mysterious geologic zones.
La Tâche, in one word, is spectacular. It's such a giving wine, both aromatically and texturally. It almost never has a bad day. And sometimes wines that are this giving and generous, they can be a little dumb, but La Tâche is never dumb and never vulgar. It's just a gloriously expressive, beautiful, embracing wine. Probably the closest thing to unconditional love that you'll ever receive from a Grand Cru in Burgundy. And because of this, I think of it as the most maternal of all the Grand Crus.
It's the road of adventure.
Yeah.
We slink along the outskirts of the village, looking towards the narrow La Grande Rue, climbing the gentle slope ahead of us, and hugging the northern border of La Tâche.
The birds are ready to go to the south.
Yeah. They're gathering.
So of course you know here, Romanée Saint-Vivant, La Grande Rue, from Domaine La Marche.
Romanée Saint-Vivant is on our right. It lies nearly at the bottom of the slope, even touching a corner of the village. The slope is flat, with calcareous clay soils nearly a meter deep.
There's a lot of talent in this vineyard. Lachaux, for example, Cassiar, and Le Roi. It's pretty delicate, much more delicate than La Tâche or Richebourg.
It's hard to talk about Vosne-Romanée and not talk about Richebourg and Romanée Saint-Vivant. Romanée Saint-Vivant is, the wines are much more ethereal, much more delicate. They could be tannic, but not very tannic.
It's sort of built like a long-distance runner, sometimes to the point of wondering if it has enough meat on its bones. But I personally love the more profiled, sleeker, more graceful terroirs. And actually, in its discretion, Romanée Saint-Vivant is the little cousin of Romanée Conti.
Richebourg. We cross the Richebourg.
The road comes to a crossroads and we turn right. Romanée Saint-Vivant is now below us on our right, Romanée Conti and Richebourg on our left.
So, first of all, you don't pronounce the G. It's Richebourg, not Richebourg.
Richebourg has been known to make bigger wines, tannic wines, chewy wines, for Pinot Noir levels, but they are definitely more firmer wines than Romanée Saint-Vivant. And I guess that would probably kind of be more because of the clear soils at the bottom of the hill, and as you go up, you get more limestone and a good mix, I guess. It just gets gluey. The limestone clay is just like so sticky. And that probably is the same happens in the bottom part of Richebourg and the middle part of Romanée Saint-Vivant. It's just sticky, but much redder, much more iron soil.
And it tastes sort of like its name, rich. It's a flamboyant, showy wine, full of fruit, with a powerful structure, not just complete, but with a whole lot of everything in it. It makes it one of the most beloved Grand Crus, not just in Vosne-Romanée, but in all of Burgundy. And it's often named as the wine that gave people their Burgundy epiphany. When it's young, it can be a little brutish. For me, it's sort of like the Jock of the Grand Crus of Vosne. It's unquestionably a brilliant Grand Cru and one of the very, very, very best. It's just slightly big and in your face for me, but it is brilliant.
Richebourg is maybe someone who is muscular and dense, right? So that makes the wine a little more tannic. Maybe Richebourg is a 300-pound muscle person, and Romanée is maybe a 220-pound muscle person.
On the left,
Okay.
We pause at the intersection.
And then if you go further south, you come upon, next to Richebourg, above Romanée is Romanée-Conti,
Oh, wow.
which is kind of mid-slope. It's hard to see the slope until you're standing below it.
wine tour, maybe.
Yeah.
It's a pretty extraordinary, gentle slope going up.
Although the road is a rugged mess, there are always a few cars parked here. Pilgrims have made their way to the sanctuary of La Romanée-Conti.
La Romanée-Conti, of course.
With the rainbow over it.
Exactly. Oh, yes. It's perfect.
It's hard to believe at first that this humble piece of the slope creates the greatest wines in the world. And yet, that perfectly embodies the glory of Burgundy. The vineyard does not shout at you, but encourages stillness, forces you to listen.
So is Romanée-Conti the greatest? Is it the one ring to rule them all? Without a doubt, for me, absolutely yes. But the thing is that it's not a flamboyant wine. In fact, when you first taste it, it's a really small thing and you can be utterly disappointed. It often loses in blind tastings to Lachaux or Richebourg. And you really have to focus on it to see why it's so great. You have to work up to it. It's not going to perform for you even though you've spent a huge amount of money on it. However, if you do give it your full attention, it's like putting a slide under a microscope and suddenly discovering an incredibly detailed universe with everything in the most absolute perfect proportions. There's no other wine in Burgundy that most fits what people think of Burgundy: intensity without weight. And there's another thing people love about Burgundy is the layer trick. You know, you go back to glass and there's another layer, and you go back and there's another layer, and there's another layer. And Romanée-Conti does this more agonizingly slowly than any other Grand Cru and goes on for hours doing this. Your glass is always empty before we've seen the full thing. But it is the most glorious, discreet, elegant, complex, slow reveal. It's just absolutely stunning.
Just above Romanée-Conti is La Romanée, a monopole of the regal and historic Domaine du Comte Ligier-Belair.
Above it is La Romanée, which is, you know, they're planted on differently because of the slope changes as you're going up. If you walk up Romanée-Conti and you literally just walk into La Romanée, and you can see the slope is slightly more north-south, so it's planted that way, versus Romanée-Conti planted east-west.
And there's questions whether it was once one vineyard that got split into two. So La Romanée, similarly to Romanée-Conti, makes it a very similar wine, yet it's not exactly the same. Romanée-Conti is spherical, everything's contained in this little ball, and I suppose because of its position on the slope, La Romanée is a more linear wine. But they share this incredible grace, this beautiful elegance. La Romanée, because of its linearity, can age for a very long time. I was blessed once in one evening to have both 1906 and 1865 La Romanée, and I didn't find that they had peaked, which is berserk, but that was the case. There was still this trace of edge in absolutely spectacular, graceful Burgundy.
And normally we will take the first left, but we will see if we don't have too much water on the. No, too much water.
Not a good idea?
Not a good idea. We will take the next. We are able to send people in the space, but to find a good drain in, it's another question.
We continue on the bumpy road, trying our best to avoid potholes and puddles of ominously unknown depths. We pass Les Souchaux and its gentle dip beneath the Combe Brûlée before arriving at the Grand Cru behemoth, Echezeaux.
So just here we have our parcel of Echezeaux.
So Echezeaux is very much the elephant in the room that is Vosne-Romanée and Flagey-Echezeaux. So the question is, should all 11 of these climats have been included in the Grand Cru? And the answer is probably not. It's one of the few exaggerations of the Burgundy hierarchy, much like Clos de Vougeot, its northern neighbor. A Great Echezeaux is different on the slope than it is on the flatlands. It's still beautiful. It still has all the beautiful spice of Vosne, especially with age. The structure is a little square, but it's never grippy or austere. On the bottom of the slope, you have much more delicate wines, maybe lacking a little in size, but with super texture that can be enjoyed much younger and really, really, really pretty.
So Echezeaux is kind of maybe the most complicated Grand Cru of all Grand Crus, because the soils in the bottom, there's more water and there's more clay. There's also kind of a little convex situation happening in the bottom of Echezeaux, which produces kind of like good Echezeaux, could pass off as Premier Cru. And if you keep walking up Echezeaux, and you see it's kind of a slope. It's like you're walking up a hill. So it's very variable. So depending on the Ludi, that's why some people blend the Echezeaux, some people keep them separate. You won't find that many Echezeaux that say, this wine is tannic or firm or hard. They are more kind of silky in texture,
Both Echezeaux and Grands Echezeaux technically lie within the village of Flagey-Echezeaux. However, this village doesn't have its own village status, so the few Premier Cru and village vineyards are labeled as Vosne-Romanée. Grand Cru vineyards transcend village, and so never claim one on their labels.
Grand Echezeaux here.
Grands Echezeaux lies at the same elevation as Romanée Saint Vivant, and just below it is the Grand Cru Clos de Vougeot, which extends all the way down to the D974.
And then when you come to Grands Echezeaux, you see it's kind of like similar silky, it's a little bit more gritty tannins, slightly more gritty. It's just more broad. So it's basically taking Echezeaux and supersizing it in length in your palate. But it has a profound texture. That's what makes Grands Echezeaux so unique.
It's very complete. There's beautiful fruit that's lush but not too rich, and it also has impressive structure. So it can age extraordinarily well. At Domaine de la Romanée-Conti, it's often the wine that ages the longest.
Now, at the end of our tour, Marie-Andrée drives us to her favorite parcel of Echezeaux so we can see the Grand Cru soils for ourselves.
The soil is really different, so we can stop here. Yes.
It's very special to be here. Thank you for taking us.
Our minds spinning, we make our way back into the center of the little village of Vosne-Romanée.
So, where are we headed?
We are headed to Domaine de la Romanée-Conti in Vosne-Romanée.
Even just the name, Vosne-Romanée, is draped in sounds of mystery and mysticism. As we drive into the village, I'm startled by how quiet it is. There's a small church in the center, of course, but I've never personally been to a restaurant or cafe of any sort. Jasper Morris lists no less than 36 producers of note in the village. So, with a population of only 350, you imagine that every building must be filled with brilliant winemakers. Today, Vosne-Romanée is, without a doubt, the most famous wine-producing village in the Côte d'Or. But we want to know how and why this became the case. The name Vosne, or Voana, was first recorded in the mid-7th century. The Romanée addendum, of course, refers to the virtually undisputed greatest vineyard in the world, La Romanée Conti, with the word Romanée alluding to a mythical acknowledgement of this spot of land by the Romans, circa the 1st century AD. And while there's evidence that the Romans did indeed grow vines in and cherish the wines of Burgundy, there's no documentation that connects them specifically to Vosne or to Romanée Conti itself. The prestige of Vosne-Romanée has always been intrinsically linked to Romanée Conti, even long before that was the name.
It was originally called the Cros des Clous, and the Saint-Vivant vineyard, which was named after the Priory of Saint-Vivant, is called the Clous de Saint-Vivant.
The Priory of Saint-Vivant was located in the village of Courtille de Vergy, located in the modern-day Haute-Côte de Nuits. In 1241, the priory purchased what would become Romanée Conti from Alix de Vergy.
The first lords, if you want, of Vosne-Romanée were the Vergy family, who had their chateau near where the priory was founded. And in the 12th century, they start giving the priory of Saint-Vivant a lot of land. So it gets donation of lands. It creates this sort of little, basically, cuverie in Vosne-Romanée, and then it gets wealthy enough that it can buy vineyards and increase its holding.
It's unclear exactly when or how the vineyards in Vosne developed their fame and reputation. But over the next 500 years, the wines became legendary. Local lore tells us they became favorites of the French court. Sometime in the 17th century, the Cru de Clos becomes, confusingly, La Romanée, and was purchased by Louis-François de Bourbon, the Prince of Conti, in 1760 for an unprecedented price. The Prince of Conti, known for his love of art and extravagant lifestyle, finally added the Conti to Romanée Conti.
As legend goes, he actually fought over it by the Marquise de Pompadour, another famous French aristocrat. Just goes to test as how famous the wines had become. When the French Revolution happens, almost all the vineyards of all their aristocracy and the clergy are confiscated and sold off at auctions. For the most part, they went down to a rich, either merchant class or lawyers, but a fairly well-off class. And that's when you see gradually appearing the very important families in Vosne-Romanée. At first, though, Romanée Conti itself was sold off to Nicolas de Fer, and he's listed as a gardener in Paris, which is kind of amusing. Eventually, Romanée Conti went to the Ouvrard family, very important landowners, and eventually, in 1869, was sold to another important Burgundian landholder, the Duvaux-Blochet family. And the de Villaine family are descendants of the Duvaux-Blochets. And it's really not until Phylloxera that you start seeing all the names of the Vosne people we see today. So by the late 19th century, you see Griveau, Camuset, Gibourg, Noëlla, Millau, Gros, Arnoux, Mugneret, Lamarche, Mongeard, Févelet, Confuron.
On a quiet, foggy morning, Paul and I arrive at the legendary Domaine de la Romanée Conti, hidden in plain sight in the center of the village, next to the church along the Rue de Temps Perdu, the road of lost time.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Not a bad morning for either of us.
In Burgundy, the name Aubert de Villaine is spoken with true reverence. Domaine de la Romanée Conti is basically royalty, but in the most sincere, most generous sense. In the years I've spent traveling here, I've never once heard the domaine referenced with anything short of genuine admiration. In preparation of our visit, I asked Jasper Morris how to prepare for this rare and intimidating opportunity.
I mean, it's always fascinated me is you meet Aubert de Villaine, and he is the most charming, delightful, mostly relaxed, sort of ordinary in one sense, human being. And he's totally humble for himself, and then just completely, absolutely nuts about the business, the company, the vineyards, and all the rest of it. So no, I think you just have to go there and let it wash over you and not be sort of intimidated by the glory. Obviously, there is a total sense of magic.
Aubert, who has recently retired as co-director, has always embodied and reflected a deep sense of respect and devotion to all of Burgundy.
Oui, bonjour, on a rendez-vous avec Monsieur de Villaine.
Paul Wasserman has known Aubert nearly his entire life.
My parents moved in 1968, and very, very quickly they met winemakers. And they became friends with mostly Hubert de Monti, Jacques Cesse, and Aubert de Villaine. So in 68, 69, they meet Aubert. He's just turned 30. He's not working at the domain yet. His father is the co-director. He's very literate. I believe he studied literature in school. He's very tall and skinny, as he still is. He's already very graceful and dignified, but also very funny. So they start hanging out a lot together, and our house was one of the places they liked to come. Becky was cooking at the time. And so all these people are at the house, so they're loud, opinionated, super conversations because they were all very passionate and very bright. And as children, my brother and I, we have to sit through the dinner, but I don't remember ever being bored. And they were all tasting it, and every 5 minutes, one of them would go, "Oh no, now it's good." And then there would be 5 minutes of silence and conversation about, "No," and they'd say, "Oh no, taste it now it's good." And this went on for 2 or 3 hours. And they finally finished their glasses. But I was always allowed to sip. And I waited for like 10 minutes, and I had some left in my glass. And I got their attention, looked at it, took a sip, and I told them all, "No, now it's good." And I was like 12 years old, and they laughed. And Aubert actually started running for my glass. I took it, and we started chasing each other around the table. It was actually all super fun. But also, he was a very dear friend. When my mom started her business, it was to be financially independent from my father, so she didn't want to go to him, but she needed somebody to co-sign at the bank, and Aubert did it without even thinking about it 2 seconds. So they were close. You know, Romanée-Conti is such an institution. I don't think there could have been anybody better during those years where it went from not the most sought-after domain in the world to this greatly prestigious place, that it was run by somebody with such dignity, you know? It's the first word that comes to mind when I think of Aubert.
The Romanée-Conti has been famous and precious for possibly thousands of years. It hasn't always benefited from the world renown that it has today. Jasper once told me that the first time the domain broke even was in 1972, and Aubert himself remembers a time when he had to go out into the market to sell the wines.
The vineyard Romanée-Conti is small, makes a wine that doesn't taste like any other wine, a powerful wine, but on the contrary, a wine all in finesse and transparency. The wines had to be sold, and I remember traveling to England or to United States. At the time, there was no regulation like today, and with a bag full of bottles that I would put in the bottles to be tasted, and the wines had to be sold. And Romanée-Conti was revered by a certain number of people, connaisseurs, but most people didn't know about Romanée-Conti.
Aubert arrived at the domaine in 1965 and began managing in 1974 in partnership with the brilliant and eccentric, though often controversial, Madame Bise Leroy, who left the domaine in the early 90s.
When I arrived at the domain, I was able to taste very rarely, but very few times, and once or twice with the parents, to taste old Romanée-Conti made from the vineyard before it was grafted. Because the Romanée-Conti, there was so much respect around the vineyard that the owners, my family at the time, they didn't dare to tear it out and replace it. So it was kept on these old vines until 45. With a density of about not far from 30,000 vines per hectare. Wow. Oui, because there was this perpetuation of the vineyard by provignage, which is when a vine would give good grapes, you wish, for 30 or 40 years, it would be bent into the soil, and you would have 1, 2, or 3 new vines coming out from buds, from shoots. So the vineyard, which at the beginning was not so dense, became little by little very dense. And Romanée-Conti, when it was torn out in 45, had no age. I mean, nobody knew the age. Nobody knew. It was perhaps 200, 300 years old. Nobody knew.
Jasper writes, the whole vineyard became a knot of underground vine stalks. It has been speculated that in this way, some vines may have dated back to the replantation of 1585.
Each vine would produce very little, and it continued to produce in spite of phylloxera. It produced really great wines until it was torn out in 45. It produced in 45 2 barrels, only 600 bottles for almost 2 hectares. So they decided to tear it out and replace it completely. But the wines that were left, unfortunately, there are very, very few. Now we have perhaps 5 or 6 bottles left of this, were very impressive. And I remember with your father and mother, I remember we tasted, we drank at least 2 occasions these wines, and it was religious, yes, it was religious. But what is interesting also is that this Romanée Conti that was kept, not grafted, supplied graftings for the replantation of all the other vineyards. The replantation started at the domain around 1910, and it lasted, almost the Second World War. And these graftings from Romanée Conti were used for all these vineyards, which gives us today the chance to select still some types coming from this old Romanée Conti. Voilà. I'm sorry if is it understandable?
No, it's perfect. We're silent because we're fascinated.
Yeah.
In discussing wines at this level, with this amount of history tied to them, this amount of care given to every step of the process, I wonder how to even begin discussing terroir. How do you begin to unravel the how or the why when we have a difficult enough time even expressing the what?
When everything is in conjunction, in other words, if the soil has been well taken care of, if the vines have the right quality, the right finesse, it certainly can make a wine that can be called, if there is an existence of perfection, it's always in comparison with other things. And it's true that Romanée Conti can have something perfect in comparison with all the other wines, in the sense that there is something that is not at all powerful, but it shows a balance, a perfect balance. Voilà.
There's a science to terroir, just as there is a science to geology, viticulture, and enology. But the sheer number of factors that go into creating the uniqueness of a place, over thousands of years of human history and 170 million years of geologic history, seems to approach infinity. And perhaps with infinite variables comes magic.
I was tasting very recently a Richebourg 78. And this Richebourg 78, certainly it was a good day, the bottle was perfect. And when I tasted this elegance, this grace, can you say grace? This texture, which is really silky compared to other wines that are perhaps very soft also, but velvety, more velvety. And this one was so silky that I really wondered, what is the molecule? I don't know. Something that happens that is completely mysterious. Because we write vintage reports, we try to link the wine made with what happened during the year, with the meteorology, which is right. But it's not an answer. You don't know where it comes from. What is the mystery that makes this wine, Richebourg 78, first so great and so different from the others? Frankly, I am 82 now, and I have the impression to know much less. The more we go, the less we know.
How do you do that now? When do you think technical? When do you think magic?
To make wine is a technique, of course, quite technical. The man and everything we do is very important and is part of the terroir. The terroir, the climat, is not something that exists by itself. It does command in a way, but we command also. And this is the thing, is you have to navigate between what you think the vineyard can do by itself and what you have to bring yourself to the vineyard. Lachaux, for instance, Lachaux is a vineyard of 6 hectares, a little more than 6 hectares, all in one hand. And from the bottom to the top, you have 4 or 5 different types of soil. And of course, the top of La Tâche and the bottom are separated by a little road. And obviously, if you made La Tâche, the bottom, separately, you would make two different wines. But it wouldn't be La Tâche. And this is the thing that is interesting. It shows that it's not only nature, it's the man. Sometimes people told me, why don't you make two La Tâche? It would be interesting to see. But I don't see any point, because we would go against what history has built.
Recognizing both the significance and the vulnerability of this history, Aubert formed a committee that would petition to protect this uniquely Burgundian feature. And in July of 2015, the Climats of Burgundy were officially inscribed on the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
It seems like that is the biggest key in understanding the difference in the definition between a terroir and a climat. It seems like the climat has human history attached to it.
So it's completely right. With the team that I put together, we decided to be candidate for the World Treasures, UNESCO. To be on this list of the World Treasures, you need to show that you possess something that nowhere else exists in the world, something that is really precious, and it would be a pity if it was damaged or lost. And so in Burgundy, it was obviously the idea of terroir that has been carried from the very beginnings. And in Burgundy, in the notary documents, in many books, the word that was used to designate a parcel with a special delineation and with a name was climat. So we chose to put our this candidacy under the banner of climat. And climat is, as you said, much more than a terroir. Terroir, it's a great word, but it can designate any production in the world. Climat is something typically Burgundy. I'm sure it can be extended to other parts of the world, but it's very Burgundian in the sense that it designates a piece of land that has been delineated by history with a name that very often comes from the Middle Ages, which makes a wine where everybody agrees that there is a special character. Even if it takes different faces with the vintages, it has a special character, a personality.
There are lots of terms that we use to describe individual vineyards in Burgundy, which sometimes seem unnecessarily confusing. But put this way, the different terms start to make a bit more sense. A terroir is the complete set of natural factors that go into making a growing area unique, including the geology, soil, slope, aspect, climate, and weather. According to Sylvain Pitillot's Atlas of the Great Vineyards of Burgundy, a lieu-dit literally refers to a place with a name. These are historic names given to a piece of land according to traditional usage, often referring to particularities of the site. For example, the Clos de Duc refers to historic ownership, Genévrière refers to juniper bushes, and Eau Cras refers to chalky, calcareous soils. The term climat is a bit more elusive and a bit more holistic. Each climat has its own natural conditions, its own name, its own history, and its own taste. There are over 1,000 climats within the Côte d'Or from Dijon to Santenay. A climat seems to marry the ideas of terroir and lieu-dit. It's a terroir that has been shaped by human civilization.
It's something that comes from the roots of history in Burgundy, so it's something that is not a production of 1 year, or it's a production of centuries. So it's something very much richer than the idea of just terroir.
With a new appreciation of the history and meaning of this village, we head just down the road to Domaine Gérard Mugneret to complete our day with a tasting of wines from the vineyards we've just seen.
Very fresh minerality.
We begin with Nuits Saint-Georges Premier Cru, Les Cras,
Almost white wine.
and compare it to its neighbor, La Richemont.
It behaves like it's superior. You know, it carries itself like it's superior. C'est fou. And it knows it.
And now, when you know where are the parcels, you can say they're very close to each other.
It's not the same minerality as Les Crans.
Completely.
It's darker. I'd like to hang out with Les Crans more as a person, but that's the better one.
I find that the minerality is finer than Les Crans.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's finer. It's just got a posture. It's like it went to ballet school. It's got good manners. It's superior in every. It's the prettier of the two sisters, or boy or brothers. You know, it's plus doué quoi.
It's a case for which the concentration does not decrease elegance and accuracy of the wine. It's the most concentrated wine of the cellar, and it's probably the most accurate wine of the cellars. One of the most mineral.
We then continue with the Vosne-Romanée Premier Crues, Les Souchaux and Brûlés.
Everybody needs a little Souchaux in their life from time to time. It's so embracing.
Exactly. You can imagine two arms.
Yes. Exactly.
But nobody, no head, just two arms. But if we are to compare the personality, I used to say that Souchaux, imagine someone is knocking on your door. You open the door and you have no time to see who is knocking, and he's already on your sofa. You know. And if you consider Brûlé is knocking on your door, you open the door and Brûlé is already going out. So you say it's a mistake, first impression, and you close the door. Or you say, if this guy came and knocked on my door, probably he has something to tell me. So I have to go outside to go and see him and ask him what he wanted. I would say more discreet, more introverti, you know?
Same word.
Yeah.
The Souchaux is more extra.
Yeah, extra.
But of course, when you taste both one after the other, you can compare. And even if you don't want to compare, you do it. But people, generally speaking, do not open 2 or 3 bottles from the same domain or the same vintage. And the most important is the pleasure you can have with the wine at the moment you drink the wine. And it's like restaurant, you can't eat every day in a 3 stars. If it would be the case, it would become normal.
And therefore boring.
And boring.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing, most passionate thing you wanted to eat would be a pizza. And depending the people you've got, you want to share the wine. It's a wine for after dinner, I would say, with friends, with very few friends. And here it's for the party, I would say. It's nice, very joyful.
That's a nice party, I'll come to your
party. Wait more.
You're invited.
No, but yeah. No, but that means if it's very joyful, big ambience, and you serve au brûlé, it's there is something wrong.
Au brûlé is for wine people and food and
and I would say a very
quiet.
Yeah, quiet atmosphere. You know, it's a very comment on dit cérébral, toi?
Cerebral.
Ouais. It's need to be quiet for me.
And Richemont is pretty cerebral too.
Yeah.
And even though Les Crans has minerality, it's not that cerebral.
No.
It's more like, crunchy.
It's, yeah, and even a not very famous wine can be the greatest wine of the evening if it's at the good moment for the wine, good moment for you, with the good people. And if you have the greatest wine on earth with very boring people and you have a lot of problems, unfortunately, I would say it will stay just a good wine. It was a good wine. So that is something very important to have the maximum of emotion. It requires two things: good quality wine, but it needs from people to be open to accueillir,
to welcome
the wine. Voilà, je ne sais pas si ça correspond un peu à ce qu'on voulait se dire, ou s'il y a d'autres choses que je n'avais pas abordées, ou si tu voulais autre chose.
I don't know. She asked the question. I'm just a chauffeur.
Oh,
no, it's not true.
I just wanted to know. Sorry.
She's also the chauffeur. She's also the chauffeur. That's a joke.
If you wanted to know something else or to see something else, or
you want a sip of Echezo before we go?
Thank you.
T'as vu, j'avais pas lâché ma pipette. Hein.
No,
That's what you're really here for.
That's what I'm really here for. Though, you know, maybe we've already had the greatest wine in the cellar.
Well, we wouldn't know unless we tried the...
Peut-être goûter un petit coup de chambol avant.
Another cuddler.
In the vineyards, Pascal is all engineer. But in the cellar, he reveals another side of his personality, the philosopher, especially while tasting Grand Cru.
I understood that we are not able to write every situation in equation. It's not possible. When I was an engineer, it was the Graal. You know, try to be able to write this equation in order to this parameter, and at the end, it done it. And the first time when I started here, my first idea was to try to produce a wine everybody would like. So it's like an equation, in fact. But I think quite quickly, it appears to me that it was completely silly. Because when you produce something everybody like, there's two possibilities, but more in 99% of cases, people will say, not too bad. It's okay, but nobody will be astonished by the wine or very emotionally touched. The 1% remaining, it's something magic, and I think it's not human being creation. And you can imagine when you collect the grapes, it exists a best approach for this grape in order to obtain the highest potential of these grapes. And when something is magic, it's probably when your actions suit perfectly the divine plan. But you have no conscious of this, but you perfectly, in the right movement. But we are not able to reproduce, to do again this. I call it the grace, It's a grace at a moment. And but most of the time we are not conscious of what is it exactly.
When tasting great wines, it seems almost inevitable that the conversation shifts to the intangible. Scientific terms seem insufficient to describe how a few drops of fermented grape juice can be so transportive, and the wines themselves force you to contemplate the boundaries between the physical and the metaphysical.
And these magic wines I was talking about, I remember one of the most magic wine I've ever tasted was Lachaux 45. The first taste, we didn't know, but he said, just taste once, and after I will tell you what is it. It was in February 10, 2010, and I thought the wine was 15 years old, something. So fresh, and the touch, it was so sensual, so...
Was it in Vaud?
Oui, c'était au domaine de la Romanée-Conti.
Romanée-Conti.
Ouais, c'était la tâche directement chez eux. And you say it can't be completely human. Yeah, there's something divine in this. You can't explain. Human being is not able, for me, because I'm a Christian, probably it's why I think this, but I think human being is not able to be so magic without something else. I believe in that.
Thank you to our guests Marie-Andrée Mugneret, Pascal Mugneret, Charles Lachaux, and Aubert de Villaine. Thank you to Rajat Parr, Paul Wasserman, Daniel Jonas, Jasper Morris, and Françoise Vannier for your commentary, guidance, and expertise. Our main source for historical and technical information is Inside Burgundy by Jasper Morris. For further detail on Vosne-Romanée, we look to The Pearl of the Coat by Alan Meadows, and for a history of Domaine de la Romanée Conti, we look to Richard Olney's book, Romanée Conti. This episode is made possible by our Season 2 partners, Becky Wasserman & Co., La Palais, and Acker Wines. Remember, you can now get 15% off your first order at Acker Wines of $350 or more by entering the code ROADSIDE at checkout. check out their website, ackerwines.com, for more details. Roadside Terroir is hosted and produced by me, Brenna Quigley, recording and sound engineering by Nick Canepa, and original music and sound design by Jeff Alvarez. This season wouldn't be possible without the support from all of you. Check out our website, roadsideterroir.com, to learn how you can stay in touch and how to help support this season by donating, sponsoring, or becoming a Roadside Insider. We'd like to extend a special thank you to our Grand Cru patron, Stephen Lippin. Thank you for making this episode possible. Thank you to Isa Islami, Jerusha Frost, Ali Massey, Summer Stabe, Michael Sager, and everyone else who helped make this episode a reality.
Nuit Saint-Georges Premier Cru, very close to Vosne-Romanée. Blind tasting. Not sure you would be able to identify Nuit Saint-Georges from Vosne-Romanée.
Sorry, will you turn your camera volume up?
Oh, is it really loud? Sorry. I can't hear it with the headphones. Is it super loud?
Crack.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
C'était le chien?
Non, c'est juste qu'on rigole parce que le volume de la... Pour prendre les photos sur la caméra, ça fait pas paradis.
Ah oui, d'accord, oui, du coup, ça...
I was wondering how you knew I was taking photos.